I'm back, everybody. Welcome to WagerTalk Today. We're talking Minnesota at Cincinnati, Saturday's game, the New York Giants, and Tommy DeVito at the New Orleans Saints. We got Andy Lang coming on to do prop bets. Art DiCesare. It's WagerTalk Today, the best daily sports betting show on the planet. I'm Lawrence Presman, my co-host Teddy covers, and we're going to start right off the bat. Marco D'Angelo, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Prez, doing well. Got to see you this week here in town. You had a nice week and ready to get some football winners for the weekend and some basketball.
Let's do that. We'll start with the early game on Saturday in the NFL. That would be Minnesota and Cincinnati. 10 o'clock here on the left coast, 1 p.m. Eastern time, Saturday. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. Cincinnati -3, pretty much across the board. There's a couple of 3.5s out there. A lot of the threes have juice attached to them. Cincy -15, -20 at the -3. Total sitting at 40.5. What are you looking at, Vikings and Bengals?
Well, Teddy, I'm looking at the Vikings in this one, and I know that everybody's in love with Cincinnati and Jake Browning. Why not? He's put up 34 points in the last 2 games. But you know what? He's not facing the defenses this week that he faced in the previous 2 games, Jacksonville and Indianapolis. He's going to be facing the Vikings, who the Vikings have the 8th best defense at yards per play allowed in the NFL this year. And yes, I realize Minnesota's going to be starting another new quarterback. Nick Mullins will get the start on Saturday. He came in last week and led the Vikings to that thrilling 3-0 win over the Raiders last week. But it's never easy coming into a game cold. You don't get the snaps during the week. The game plan that was designed was not designed for you. It was designed for the other starter, who was Josh Dobbs, who got yanked in that game as they could not get anything going offensively. I'm looking at this one. You've got Minnesota, as I said, the better defensive team. I love taking the better defensive team, getting points. And as I said, it's been a nice story for Jake Browning, but now we got a couple games where we got film on him. And as I said, he's going against a much tougher defense this week. I'm going to take the Vikings plus the 3. I actually have them winning the game outright. I've got the game 23-20 Minnesota. Let's take the Vikings on Saturday, as both teams are fighting for playoff spots wild card wise.
So Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores is a guy who I admire very much. He's someone who certainly I thought did fine in Miami before he got let go. And he's transformed this Minnesota defense from what we saw in September to what we're seeing now. Minnesota's blitzing a lot. Browning has a bunch of big play receivers on the outside. If he can hit them, Cincinnati's likely to come away with some big play touchdowns. Minnesota's offense, hit or miss at best this season. Do you worry about those Bengals receivers making plays downfield and Minnesota having to play catch-up? Because I don't know that that's the best way for the Vikings to cover this number.
Well, obviously, if you fall behind in a game, you never want to do that, especially with a backup quarterback. But what do you think that's going to make it that they're going to be able to hit those plays? I realize they've got some great wideouts, but, Jake Browning, is he going to be able to get the ball off? I just don't see it. This is not a great offensive line for the Bengals. And as I said, we're not going against the 2 defenses that he saw the last 2 weeks. Jacksonville, that Monday night game, combination of their defense is not the best. They're middle of the pack. And I think that Monday night game, they went in there and looked past Cincinnati. If you remember, the Bengals did not look good in Jake Browning's first start. And then last week, Indianapolis, we've seen that the Colts have given up points to everybody this year. Different story this week. I can't expect the unexpected. I'm going to expect what I see on paper, and that is the Vikings defense dominating the game.
Bold prediction from Marco D'Angelo. Marco, you want to talk New Orleans -6 against the New York Giants. And Man, you sit on TikTok and it's one Tommy DeVito TikTok after another. Jimmy G must feel pretty good, huh? How every Italian in the world is loving Tommy DeVito. Anyway, we have him going for 4 in a row. The Giants +6 against New Orleans. How do we bet this game?
Oh, guys, you know I'm a situational handicapper, and to me, you can't get any better of a situational spot to fade the Giants. Yeah, it's been a fun story, but guys, come on. They beat Washington, who self-destructed 3 weeks ago with 6 turnovers in that game. Then they played the Patriots, and we know how bad the Patriots offense has been. 3 turnovers in that game. And then last week against Green Bay, once again, 3 turnovers. Guys, do the math. That's a 12-3 turnover ratio in the favor of the Giants. And let's talk about the spot last week. You had Green Bay and Jordan Love coming off their game of the year. If you remember, the week before that, they played on Sunday Night Football against Kansas City, and Jordan Love played out of his mind. Come in, they play on a Monday night the following week against the Giants. The Giants were coming off their bye week. They had 2 weeks to prepare for Green Bay, who, like as I like to say, was coming in fat and sassy in that game. And they had 2 weeks to come up with a pretty good game plan for Tommy DeVito. Now they're going to come back on a short week from Monday to Sunday, and you're facing a Saints team that they're the benefactor of the situational spot. We said it favored the Giants last week, catching Green Bay off of a big game. Well, you're catching the Giants off a big Monday night win. They haven't had many Monday night games at home because they've been so putrid the last few years, the Giants. And look at who the Giants play next week. Yeah, this is one of my famous sandwich spots. They are coming off Green Bay, and they go to Philadelphia next week. How excited are they going to be for playing the Saints? And the Saints are in a battle for the playoffs in that NFC South where everybody's at a log jam of mediocrity, I should say, there with Tampa and Atlanta. They need to win. Derek Carr, if you can keep him upright, and that's been the problem this year, the offensive line's not been good for the Saints, but when he's had time to throw, Derek Carr has played well for the Saints this year. I think they get the job done here. I'm going to go ahead. I love the spot. Love the Saints at home, catching the Giants off that big win and a look-ahead spot. Give me New Orleans. I've got them winning by 11 in this one.
So clearly, it's a bet against spot for the Giants. The question that we have to ask ourselves is New Orleans good enough to lay 5.5? And then the money's coming for the Giants. Today it was 6 last night. We're looking at 5.5 and even a couple of 5s out there this morning. So there is some sharp money showing for the underdog today, moving this number. Is New Orleans good enough to lay 5.5 points to anyone? They gained 4.0 yards per play last week against Carolina. Carolina self-destructed and gave them a win, but it's not like New Orleans has played good football at any stage this season. And I've got them 1-5 ATS at home, 1-5 ATS when laying a field goal or more. This team you're comfortable laying a price with.
I am, and for 2 reasons. One is you look at their last 3 wins, they've all been by a touchdown or more. 2, again, Tommy DeVito, every game that passes by, you got more game film. What was the big thing last week in that Monday night game? All of a sudden, Tommy DeVito was a runner in that game as well. He is not going to get those big plays on the ground this week. They're going to be prepared for that game plan to make sure that he doesn't, turn up field and get the big gains and keep drives going. And if the Saints don't self-destruct like everybody else has done, Teddy, what's the Giants going to do if they have to come from behind and Tommy DeVito is forced to throw the football in a come-from-behind situation? Much easier to play football going downhill than uphill. Still a rookie, buddy.
Marco D'Angelo joining us, everyone. Marco has a bowl package promo up for you guys, only $99. Since 2015, like a million years ago, Marco has 70 wins and 44 losses in bowl season. So, guys, take advantage Marco, do they need a promo code for that package?
Nope. Just go to my homepage, guys. You will get all of my plays, including the 5% plays throughout the bowl games, right through the championship game for $99. Great deal. We've had a great college football season. And as you know, if you've watched the Bet On It show, our college best bets this year on the show went 12-2. Let's keep it rolling in the bowls, guys. That's been my favorite time of the year. Like you said, going all the way back to 2015. As you said, we're going way back. That tells me consistency, Prez, consistency.
There you go. Marco D'Angelo, everyone. Consistency. Teddy covers. Before we get into what did bettors learn, real quick shout out. I wanted to make sure everybody knows on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, we are going to have a customer appreciation day. Every single handicapper, $2. So the entire site-wide promo will be $2. So guys, if you're listening to the show, if you're watching a little later, if you've never purchased from WagerTalk.com, you think the prices are too expensive, you don't bet enough money, whatever the case may be, this Tuesday, every single handicapper on the website will be $2. So make sure to mark that up in your calendar. And other than that, Theodore, what did bettors learn last night?
So yesterday on the show, we talked about mispriced teams in the NBA. And I used Houston and Orlando and Brooklyn as three examples of teams that have been clearly mispriced from the get-go this season, none of whom I'm sure the markets have caught up with even yet, 20-something games in. But that's only one of the many reasons why the NBA has been so good to my clients and I in recent seasons. I'm up over 200 units of profit in NBA since February 22, betting widely available sides and totals. So let me talk about one more NBA theory that pays. It's one that I used it last night, betting against Miami. Miami's not a mispriced team. They're pretty good. I don't see market numbers from the Heat far from my numbers, as long as they're on the road. But I give Miami a 0-point home court advantage. The markets don't. And I literally never, almost never, lay more than -3 with Miami unless it's an exceptional circumstance. The markets don't care about what the point spread is. I know that Miami has a role that they're not good in. Let's call this the know their roles theory of NBA betting. The Heat were what, -3.5, -4 against the Bulls last night. For the purpose of this discussion, I'm going to call it -4 because Miami at -4 or higher this year, 1-7 ATS. Last year, regular season, -4 or higher, 9-23-2 ATS. You add it up, 30-10 betting against Miami over the last 2 years when they're laying more and -4 or higher. It's not a short-term angle. Miami's not the only team that's a very poor, bigger favorite or a very good road underdog or any of the other roles that you might find teams in over and over again. Pay attention to a team's success or failure in particular roles, and you'll make money betting the NBA. But just like we said yesterday, you have to pay attention every night. But if you pay attention every night, you're methodical, and you track results that the markets don't care about, the NBA is very much a beatable league. That's what I learned last night. Lawrence, back to you, my friend.
Teddy, it's good to be back, brother. It was nice to see you on Sunday. I know you didn't feel the same way, but that's okay, man. We still had fun.
Should we make fun of Marco? Because I haven't talked about the whole Marco, where Marco told us to meet him, and then what games he had on the TV yet. I was waiting for him to come on the show.
So I'll set you up. So every time I go to Vegas, I go there to play poker. So, I mean, I never have that Sunday off where I could sit in a sports book and enjoy, a whole slate of NFL plays in that wonderful, insane, dramatic, exciting, energetic environment. This was my first Sunday in a million years where I took the day off from poker and I wanted to experience Vegas sports betting on a Sunday. So from there, why don't you tell everybody what went down?
Sure. And of course, I never leave my home office on Sundays. I can't think of one time in the last 5 years because I want everything controlled. I want to be able to watch the games I'm going to watch. I have the 3 TVs set up. You can switch back and forth. You can switch the volume around. I don't leave my home office on Sundays. But Prez is in town. Marco's like, come on, we're all getting together. I'm like, all right, I'll do it. Let's go. Brian Leonard's coming. Yeah. Marco sets the place up because he has a coupon for 50% off or something. It's the bar for a ice rink where they're playing kids hockey.
Yeah.
Nowhere near the strip. Nothing going on whatsoever. They do have a handful of TVs. Yeah, no people. I mean, where atmosphere-wise, it's parents who are drinking, having something, watching their kids play hockey. That's the place Marco brings, because he has a 50% off coupon that I don't even think we even used in the end, and the company paid for it. But regardless of why he chose that venue, walk in, the sound is on the Houston Texans versus New York Jets game. There are, I think, 5 TVs. Marco's got the same game on 3 of them, so we can look at it from every angle. There's 8 games going on. Marco's got 3. There's only 3 of them, and none of them are games of any interest to anybody but Marco. And now to change all of that, we got to get the bartender to come out around, and the bartender. Marco had it set up perfectly for him. It wasn't real good for the rest of us. And in terms of the venue, the least exciting venue in town with the least exciting games on. And me and you both had the same reaction. We went in there. We're like, this? What? This? And then it took us half hour to get the games that we wanted on the TV, and we still couldn't get volume on them. And he watched Jets Texans all the way through the finish, even though it was an easy cash with volume. Yeah, frustrating, annoying.
I mean, the worst thing for me, period, given that you're sitting at a poker table for 12 hours a day, were the chairs. They were like those old wooden chairs. So you want me to, it was a $50 taxi ride from the strip to sit on wooden crappy chairs on my only Sunday in Las Vegas that I'm not playing cards, to eat bacon and eggs. Oh, anyway, whatever. Dude, some of the guys want to know a little bit about my poker, and I rather than telling stories, we'll get to it next week. Look, it was a good weekend. It was a good week. I played the 1100 Prime, the WPT Prime, $10 million prize pool. I cashed second min cash. So it wasn't a min cash. That was 1,700. It was 1,800 that I cashed out. But I likely had a min cash. The thing was, there was so many people knocked out at the same time within 10, 15 minutes that the floor couldn't sort out who got knocked out first, second, third, fourth. So I just stood there and waited for my turn. And by the time they got to me, I'd probably moved 80 places up the ladder. Then I played the 800 Venetian tournament. I cashed in that as well. I would have liked to have run deeper in both, but man, it is so hard to even cash in these tournaments. The top 12.5% of a field cashes. I was proud of what I did. It was a fun week, but obviously I would have liked to have gone a little bit deeper. I basically broke even on the week, so be it. We move forward. Let's bring in Andy Lang. Andy, how are you, brother? Volume, Andy. Turn it on.
Why didn't you ask Marco about this when he was on the show? That was an amazing story. That was hilarious. Why didn't you ask him about that? What gives? I thought that seems right up your alley, Prez, to bring Marco on and immediately rip him for his choice of
which
video.
Is what happened.
Disappointed.
Which is what happened as soon as Prez walked in the door. Which is the same thing that happened when I walked in the door. All I did is I'm like, the first reaction is, okay, Marco, this one's on you, dude.
Andy, I'm not.
If you don't want to get ripped,
I'm not kidding you.
Don't book us in a venue like this and then set it up the way you did, because you're going to get ripped.
Andy, I'm not kidding you. The bar faced the hockey rink, and it was a boys team, like a 10-year-old boys team versus like a 10-year-old girls team. It got to the point where we were spending more time cheering for the girls team than the NFL games.
That was you.
I believe it. I believe it.
Anyway, so be it. We move
it wasn't
on.
A we.
Andy,
that was you.
Okay, bugger off, Teddy. Don't start with me today. Andy, you got a prop bet for us on Joe Flacco. Let's start there.
Yeah, I'm really surprised at this number. 34.5 pass attempts. I will happily take the over. He's thrown the ball 44 and 45 times the last 2 weeks. And why not? He hasn't been bad. He's actually been pretty decent. And now we're looking at some injuries in the Cleveland backfield. This is a little bit of a tough matchup here. But the Chicago Bears are just they're good against the run. They're a little bit better against the run than they are against the pass. And if you're Joe Flacco and the Browns, why wouldn't you let him keep throwing the ball? Even with injuries to Amari Cooper, he's kind of getting there. And he's not just kind of gone over this total. I mean, gone over by 10 and 11 pass attempts here. So the weather seems to be good. Always check the weather. We're actually going to talk about a game where the weather is going to be a factor. Weather seems to be just fine in this game. So I don't know why they would get away from Joe Flacco throwing the ball a ton here. I think the number is way too low. I don't know if they're expecting – I can't even say regression because I don't know what he would regress back to. He hasn't even been playing for this season. So I'll just take Joe Flacco to keep throwing the ball a lot. I love 34.5. I'll take the over.
Well, 2 weeks ago, they were way behind in the game against LA. They had to throw in that game. And then last week, they faced a pretty stout run defense in Jacksonville. And that was a back-and-forth game as well. Now, I don't know that Chicago's necessarily a step down in defensive class. They played better of late. Certainly, you look at their defensive numbers for the full season, they're not great. You look at the defensive numbers in recent weeks, they're much better. But if Cleveland's ahead, Joe Flacco's not throwing. Does this bet correlate with the Bears plus the points?
I like the Bears. For whatever reason, they seem to have turned a corner a little bit. Their defense is stingy. This is not a team I would want to be playing right now. I don't see a game script where Cleveland's up big on this one. And even if Cleveland does get up big, it may be from Flacco throwing. This is a Chicago team that really performed really well against Detroit. And I think they perform well here again. I don't see a blowout scenario. I like the Bears plus the points. Wouldn't surprise me if the Bears were actually leading this game and Flacco had to throw even more. So, there was a funny stat that Joe Flacco has 5 passing touchdowns, and I believe the Steelers have like 9 this year. Like there's something that Joe Flacco's already halfway to the Steelers and the Jets passing touchdown total. So he's playing well. I think they keep riding him regardless of the matchup.
Andy Lang joining us, everyone. 2 more prop bets coming from him. Art DiCesare still to come. Same with Teddy's big game breakdown and my daily presidential address. Andy, Zeke Elliott, receiving yards, 18.5. Are we looking to play them over or under?
Oh, I was so happy to see this come out under 20 yards. I will gladly take 18.5. With Ramondre Stevenson hurt, Zeke has done really well against the Chargers in that epic 6-0 game. He had 5 targets. He caught 4 passes for 40 yards. And I talked about him last week against the Steelers, and he got 8 targets. He caught 7 of those for 72 yards. This is a Chiefs team that gives up about 28 yards per game, but last week James Cook had 83 yards against them. So as long as Zeke is getting these targets and he's catching all of them, and I got to be honest, the eye test, he looks pretty good. I wonder if just not playing a whole lot this year has given him a chance to heal. I think he looks pretty good. His hands look good coming out of the backfield. He's catching most of his targets. He's getting a lot of them. I love this up to 20.5 yards. I think he's a big part of the passing offense.
So instead of a follow-up question here, I'm just going to give some breaking news. To the surprise of absolutely no one, the Chargers have fired their head coach, Brandon Staley, and the GM as well. So the 63 points they gave up on Thursday Night Football last night looks like the last straw for Brandon Staley and company. That, of course, breaking news. We're happy to break it for you right here on Wager Talk Today. Let's talk one more prop before we're all said and done. Tua Tagovailoa, the Miami Dolphins. What are we going to do with him passing yards this week against the New York Football Jets?
This is a really low total for him. Normally, his passing total is around 275 to 280, and the books have us down to 220.5. I couldn't believe it. But then when you look at all the factors in this game, I like the under quite a bit. This is a Jets defense that has given up 129 yards per game passing the last 3 weeks. They have been playing very, very good pass defense. And then when you look at the rushing yards, they haven't been great against the run, middle of the road, but they're allowing 112 yards rushing. And if you're looking at this Dolphins team, they've got a banged up Tyreek Hill. He is not going to practice today, so he is questionable for the game. So if we bet this now and Tyreek Hill is out, boy, do we have a great number. Even if he plays, I think he's going to be a little bit hampered. And Miami, they've got A-Chain, they've got Mostert. I don't know why they would let Tua try and throw the ball all over the place if they're having success on the ground. And the other thing is this game is going to be probably the most affected by weather. It is windy. The weather report has been steady all week. It's going to be a baseline of 20-mile-an-hour winds with gusts all the way up to 35 miles an hour. So this is going to be a tough game for Tua to complete a lot of those long passes in a windy game. I think they utilize the running game a lot. And like I said, if Tyreek Hill ends up not playing in this game or if he plays very limited, this is just going to be a really, really tough ask against a great passing defense. So it's a really low number, but I think the weather, the injuries, and the game script all point me towards the under on this number.
So the Jets faced off against Tua, it was Thanksgiving week. With that Friday? That was that Friday game. Miami had that 99-yard interception return touchdown for the worst beat of the season when it comes to first half betting. So they were up throughout the game. It was a pretty easy win for them. And Tua still went over the total, or at least this total, 243 pass yards, and he threw a couple of picks in that contest. Do you worry at all that the first meeting could be a harbinger of things to come in the second meeting?
Tyreek Hill had 9 catches for 102 yards in that game. I would be stunned if he gets near those numbers. He had a 35-yard catch. Jalen Waddle had a 32-yard catch. And unless it's a catch and run, I don't see very many long explosive plays in this wind. So hopefully the wind kind of keeps up and pushes us towards this. But 243 with a healthy Tyreek Hill and not weather to worry about, that's not a very good performance. So I think all the factors this week help me out on this one. I still feel pretty good about taking the under.
Andy, what do you got to promote?
Very, very excited. Today starts the World Championship of Darts. So we've got a couple weeks of darts plays going on. If you want to grab all those plays along with 5% NFL play and our college football best bet, we are 12-3 on the season in college football plays. Coming off a nice 5% win in the NFL last week, you can use the promo code GIFT25, GIFT25. It gets $25 off a 7-day pass. That way you can get the 5% play for NFL. You can get the first week of all of our darts plays. You get the college football best bet, NHL, got a really nice soccer slate. So a lot going on over the next few days. So best way to take advantage is just get a 7-day pass. Use the promo code GIFT25 at checkout.
There you go. Andy Lang, everybody. And Andy, speaking about these periphery sports, the rodeo was in town in Vegas while I was around. So I just want to make a quick comment about that. Firstly, I had no idea how sexy women are in cowboy hats. Like, legit, I thought it was absurd. Now I'm like, so that's number one. Number two, I had no idea that all rodeo people were blonde. That's number two. And number three, I got so caught up in the rodeo talk at the poker table that I downloaded a show for the plane called Fearless, which is the story of the 2015 professional bull riding championship. And I sat on the plane watching it, and I'm telling you, I had my earphones in, so I didn't know how loud I was. Half the plane were looking at me. I was, oh my God, literally screaming while watching this show. These guys who ride bulls, oh my God, like, it is ridiculous how freaking dangerous that is. Shout out to those guys. Teddy, man, are you into bull riding?
It's time for today's big game breakdown, Lawrence. I appreciate you trying to do whatever it is that you do now that you're back on the show. But our audience is not, if they want to watch the show, knock them out. That being said, It's a football Friday. We still have Art DiCesare to come. Let's get into it and talk big game breakdown. A little Saturday NFL. The afternoon game, the Steelers and the Colts. My clients and I bet against Indy last week. And this is a client play for me as well this week. I'm not a Colts believer right now. That 4-game winning streak they had literally came against 4 of the worst teams in the NFL. Teams that entered last week with a combined 12-36 straight up record this season. This is a mediocre offense. You have a backup quarterback, and Gardner Minshew's an okay backup quarterback. Offensive lines had injuries. The running backs have injuries. This is not a team primed to march up and down the field against a good defense. They're struggling in the red zone. And defensively, Indy's pretty bad. All right. This defense giving up big plays in bunches. They've done it week after week. They're not stopping the run consistently. They're not stopping the pass consistently. This is the type of defense that Pittsburgh should be able to move the football against. Now, we all know how bad the Steelers' offense has been this season. Their defense has been pretty good. And, oh, by the way, Alex Highsmith upgraded to probable. James Pierre upgraded to probable. TJ Watt upgraded to probable for that Pittsburgh defense. Those all coming out in the last 24 hours. So their defense likely to be pretty close to that full strength. I know Pittsburgh just lost back-to-back games at home against Arizona and New England, a pair of 2-win teams. You don't want Pittsburgh at home. You want Pittsburgh on the highway. 9-4-1 against the spread the last 2 years on the road. 3-1-1 against the spread on the road this season. A little bit of extra time to prepare. I like Mike Tomlin's quote talking about the bad loss last week on Thursday night. Quote, "This stings, but we'll be back." I think they come back here. Pittsburgh's the better team. Give me the Steelers plus the points in a game I expect them to win. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
Pittsburgh and the points are all yours, Teddy. So, guys, we'll lower the likes. If you want a daily presidential address, give me 100 likes, please. We're at 62. We have about another 12 minutes to get there. I know we will. Art DiCesare joining us from the Westgate. Art, before we even start, do you take bets on the rodeo?
No.
Why? There were like 1 million rodeo people in town.
Good. There's places in town they can go bet. And
so there were
bets
bets somewhere. Somebody was taking bets on the rodeo.
Yeah, I believe Circa books them. I think South Point books them as well.
South Point does, I think. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. South Point
Circa
does. I went to South Point.
Yeah.
I went to South Point with Marco, and I was a buckle and a cowboy hat away from looking like a local. There was a guy sitting next to me that still had his spurs. I think that's what they're called on the back of his boots. And he kept talking about roping. He was in the roping contest. And I'm sitting there going, what the hell's a roping? And I didn't want to sound like an idiot and ask him. So eventually he turns to me. He's like, want to see my 11-year-old kid in his roping contest? I'm like, hell yeah. Now I'll know what roping is. Anyway, that's the rodeo. Teddy, let's get some actionable info out of Art. Nice to see you, my friend.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now that you finished your yip yap, let's actually let's let the grown-ups in the room talk.
Blah, blah.
Arthur DiCesare, let's talk a little NFL for this weekend. We'll talk Bulls in just a minute, but we'll start in the National Football League. We got games on Saturday. We got games on Sunday. We got games on Monday. We had a game last night. Talk about who the pros like, who the Joes like. And if memory serves correctly, Art DiCesare himself is on a bit of a hot streak. You got to let the audience know who you like this week. You've been rolling right here on WagerTalk Today.
Sounds good, Teddy. Yeah, public is on the Colts. They are on the Colts on Saturday. They're going to lay the short number. They're going to lay the number with Atlanta, -3. I think they feel, okay, Carolina's the worst team in the league. We're just going to blindly bet against Carolina. That's something the public is happy to do. That line to me is a little fishy. It's not moving. No sharps even want to come in and bet Atlanta, but the public's happy to bet Atlanta. And the public also wants to lay the number with the Saints, -6. We've actually moved to 5.5. So it's gone against the public. Public can get a better number right now. They're taking Dallas, too. There's no shock there. Dallas is so public right now, catching a couple of points. They're going to be in a lot of teasers as well. And they're taking over 50 and a half in that game. I don't think there's a shock in that, thinking those two teams will go up and down the field. Sharps are on the over in the Arizona and Cardinals. I'm sorry, the 49ers and Cardinals game. It was 46 and a half, now 48 and a half. They're also on the over in the Giants and Saints game. We opened 37, got pushed to 39, even hit 39 and a half, but we've now gone back. And then early in the week, even before the quarterback change, they were taking the points with the Vikings. They were taking 5.5 and 5, and even still at some 3.5. Now that we've gotten to 3, obviously the Sharps have moved away from it, but they've already gotten the best of the number. I'm actually a fan of that side. I like it. And if you would like an NFL pick from me, I'm with you, Teddy. I think Pittsburgh's the side. I think Pittsburgh's offense will get right against Indianapolis, and I think they will turn Minshew over a couple of times. So you never want to say take the money line, but I think the 1.5 is good, and I think you could even look at getting the plus money on the money line with Pittsburgh.
Well, I like it when you and I agree, Art, and I like it much better than when you and I disagree about sides in just about any sport. Let's talk some bowls. Obviously, this weekend is the first weekend of the beginning of bowl season. We'll have bowls on an almost daily basis, starting from Saturday through the end of the year. Let's start with Saturday's games, then we'll talk about some of the bigger marquee matchups later. For Saturday, what are you seeing in the same basic question? Who's the public like that we can fade? Who do the wise guys like that we can tail? And anyone you like for Saturday's bowl action. What do we have? 8 games in total.
Absolutely, yeah. Bulls get going, and Bulls are good. Bulls are especially midweek when they're Tuesday, Wednesday, and we get a noon game or something. It's nice. It gives us a little bit of a bump to our handle, so we always appreciate the bowl games. Public's on UCLA, but they became way late to the party. The Public, that was pick on -1. Now the Public's laying -4 with UCLA. They're taking over in the Cal Texas Tech game, and that's actually gone against them. The total has gone down. They were taking over 58, now 56.5, 57. And they're taking 3.5, plus 3.5 with Fresno State against New Mexico State. So Public taking the points there. Sharps are on the Jacksonville, Louisiana under 59.5. We moved all the way to 58.5. Took the over in the Ohio, Georgia Southern game. Took over 48. We reached 50.5. We've now bumped back down a little bit. But the initial move was on the over there. Appalachian State, Sharps came in and laid 6, got to 7. There was buyback on Miami of Ohio at the 7. We've now settled into the middle at -6.5. And the game I like Texas Tech. We've missed the best number. There were 2.5s out there. There's still 3s out there. Some 3.5s are popping around. But I like Texas Tech to take care of business in their bowl game against Cal, laying 3.
Art DiCesare, risk management supervisor at the Westgate Superbooking. You follow him on Twitter at ArtDice21. He's an excellent follow. And boy, he's dishing the goods, giving us good information from behind the counter. This is something you don't find on every show. Art, talk to me about the big bowl games. Let's talk New Year's Day. Let's talk, the Final Four, the playoffs, and some of the other ones that stand out in terms of marquee matchups, whether it's Georgia, Florida State, et cetera, et cetera. But later on down the road, what are you seeing? Who's the early money on? I know the Public hasn't come in yet at all on these games, but from a wise guy perspective, I know there's money flowing. Where's the money flowing, the early money flowing for some of the marquee matchups later in bowl season?
No doubt. Listen, we'll get to the 2 big games, obviously, but I think the one that has really stood out to me is the Ohio State-Missouri game. Obviously, Ohio State has a lot of opt-outs, a lot of transfer portals, a lot of people going to the NFL draft. And I think it's a game Missouri really cares about. This is a huge game for Missouri. They've had a great year, and you've seen that number flip. I mean, that was Ohio State at one point -2, -2.5. Now it's Missouri -3, 3.5. So a complete flip on that game, which there's no shock. Obviously, Sharps were on it very early. We're happy to take Missouri plus the points, plus the money line number that they were able to get. So a complete flip. I just wonder at what point does the number get too big and maybe there is the buyback on Ohio State. We have not seen that yet. Obviously, a couple of weeks to go. Early money came in on Alabama. When we opened Michigan 2.5, there was no shock that we were going to see the Alabama money come in. Now sitting Michigan -1.5. So, that number's kind of settled there and stuck there. Texas and Washington, I mean, we took a little bit of money early on Washington +4.5, and now we're at 4. There's really been not much movement on that game. A little bit of money on the over, 64, 64.5, things of that nature. But it's actually been pretty quiet on the front of those major Final Four games right now, except for, that initial first 48 hours when we open the numbers.
I want to ask you a quick follow on the Missouri-Ohio State game. You're talking now to a wide mix of bettors. There are casual recreational bettors. There are many bettors who are more experienced and semi-pros who watch the show as well. And there's certainly guys who know what the heck they're doing. If you were going to give someone advice about that Missouri-Ohio State game, all right, right now, is it too late to bet Missouri at -2.5? Is it still reasonable to bet Missouri after the line move? Do you would say, if you had to make a bet on this game, would you wait and see if you found a +3 for the Buckeyes? Talk about how you would approach that game now as opposed to what's already happened behind us.
It's really a great question. I personally, if I believed in Missouri and thought Missouri was the right side, and I clearly missed the best number, I'd either not play the game or maybe look for an early in-game opportunity. That's the beauty of in-game, and that's why obviously in-game is offered on so many things. Maybe Ohio State gets the ball and goes down the field and goes up 7-0. And, you have an opportunity to maybe get, a number that you wanted. I would look for opportunities like that. I wouldn't be running now to go say, now I'm laying the points with Missouri when I could have taken the points. Or even if I liked them to win the game outright, I could have gotten, +110, +115 on the money line, and now I'm laying -130, -140 on a money line. I would not go and want to do that. That's not a strategy that I believe.
Just a few more minutes with Art DiCesare. Art, 8 NBA games tonight, a short NHL card. Do you have anything betting wise for us on either of those two sports?
Absolutely, a lot of movement as far as totals in the NBA. Pacers, Wizards, anytime it's a Pacer game, you can't price the total high enough. You just can't. We open 258, doesn't matter, 259.5 now. At some point, we're just going to start opening these in the 260s and forcing people to bet unders. They probably still won't bet unders. They don't care. They want to bet Pacer games over. Hawks, Raptors, we opened 244, now 241, so good under money came in. And Prez, as far as the NHL goes, Preds at Canes. We opened Canes -170, now -155. Canes are in an interesting spot. They're off back-to-back 3 and 4 nights. Obviously, they've played a lot better since the coach ripped them. But this is kind of a tough spot with 3 and 4 nights. So Predators are probably the right side, and you've seen the money come in early on the Predators.
Teddy's got one more question, brother.
Yeah. Last but not least, Art, college basketball season. In addition to all the other sports, there's college hoops. And while we haven't seen loaded cards this week, there's going to be a loaded card tomorrow. But I want to ask you, when it comes to college hoops, what's the story right now? What's the teams that the pros like? What's the teams that the Joes like? What stands out to you if you were going to give something from a 360 teams, highlight one or two of them here that you want to talk about?
Sure. Let me just give you one for tonight. Obviously, you got a marquee matchup. You got UConn, Gonzaga, 2 top 10 teams. Obviously, UConn are the defending champs. They look really good again. Saw a lot of over money come in on that, early this morning. 149.5 went all the way to 152.5. So a game where you expect both teams to push the pace, go up and down, and score a lot. But the thing, Teddy, is, and I remember we talked, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I kind of said I thought Baylor was a little under the radar. Obviously, the ratings and the power ratings have them up there, but I don't think a lot of people think about Baylor. And another thing is, and I'm always going to say this, early in the season, the sharp guys, when they see a team like a Power 5 team or a top 25 power rated team, and they're laying 20 or more, they're never afraid to lay the big number. They look at a -20, a -24. They just never afraid to lay that number. They feel over time because like you said, with 362 Division I teams, there is such a disparity in those teams. You know, a team ranked 8th and a team ranked 100th. I mean, they're not even in the same ballpark. So that's my thing. You always see that early in the morning when that sharp money starts coming in. We're moving numbers -20 to -24. I mean, we're moving 3 or 4 points on those. And then the public comes back in and takes the number. But early on, sharps are always going to lay a big number in college basketball.
Art DiCesare. Art, what do you got to promote?
The Westgate guys, come down, check us out. Listen, Teddy just said it. All the sports are going on right now, man. I mean, everything is happening. There's just so much going on. Bowl season in full swing. Obviously, we're in playoff mode basically in the NFL with a lot of major games. And we got Saturday games and all the bowls. So there's basically every day there's something for you to bet on. Come down, get signed up for the app. Anything you need. If you ever need any help and I'm there, please come ask for me. And, I'll be more than happy to help you out.
There we go. Art DiCesare. Art, did you go to wagermerch.com and buy your product?
I did.
Yeah.
I made my order this week, my friend.
Nice. Well,
Yes.
I look forward to you wearing some of it next Friday. Thank you for joining us, Art DiCesare. Guys, we did get to over 100 likes. It's time for your daily presidential address. Okay. I got 3 bets for you guys, 2 NHL and 1 NFL bet. I actually last left off sweeping the board in these videos. I do want to make mention that this week will be the only week all year that there will not be a NFL presidential address. I know that's a big show and you guys really like it a lot, but I just could not find 20 hours to take apart the entire card game by game by game by game. I am going to spend the next 6 hours after this show going through the NFL and coming up with my bets. I did come up with a 5% NFL play for Sunday that I freaking love. Love. Probably my favorite bet of the entire year. So check that over at WagerTalk and shout out to Teddy Covers. He has a 5% on Sunday as well. I have a 4% NBA play going tonight. I'm on a 30 and 12 hoops run. Okay, let's get to it. What do I like tonight? I like the New York Islanders, plus 102 against the Boston Bruins. And I like the over in the Arizona and San Jose game. As for NFL, I like the Green Bay Packers. Guys, it's good to be back. I'll be here from all the way through. No more vacations in the immediate future. What a great show. Teddy, take us home.
Sure. That's going to wrap it for the Friday edition of Wager Talk. Each and every weekday, your sports central for gamblers right here on Wager Talk TV. Prez and I will be back on Monday with another loaded edition, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Between now and then, you guys know what to do. Enjoy the games and best of luck with all your wagers.